Hi.
Hey Marina, how are you?
Good. How are you, Tor?
I'm all right, thanks. I just sort of rushed home from the gym, and London is surprisingly hot today. So I feel it's sort of the heat is still flowing through my being. Where is it hot where you are?
Yes, but I went to the beach today, so um, had some cooling time, but just so
No.
happy to see you and really happy to, yeah, just kind of explore for a moment.
Mm.
For everyone that's tuning in, my name's Marina. I'm one of the co-founders of We Are Formless, and we're really happy to be collaborating for a second kind of year with RV Experience. This kind of, really organic space that we've kind of co-created called Calling You Home, and we really wanted to come together again this year and sort of yeah, just like deepen that journey, and when we were all chatting, the word authentic just sort of came up quite a few times, and we sort of had that light bulb moment of like, let's just go back to strip it back and kind of really just explore authenticity. And in some ways it almost can feel like a contradiction to explore authenticity, because you don't want to start to put things into molds. But we're really excited. We've got amazing practitioners. Obviously we're going kind of global, with our partners, RV Experience being in America, and we're in the UK, but we're really Europe, but our We Are Formless community is also global. So yeah, just wanted to use sort of this moment to just connect with our community and kind of just explore what we'll be sharing on this journey. So We Are Formless is really born from this kind of place of love and compassion and empathy, and just wanting to constantly, the name Formless, just constantly remain in that space of being able to meet whatever the world is kind of showing us. I know that sounds really abstract, and we explore it in many different ways, and we hold events, and some are kind of in the creative world and the spiritual world and holistic, but really just whatever sort of feels organic. And we're so grateful to have kind of, over the past year, that We Are Formless has been alive and kicking to really just grow this community that we serve, but also that the community starts to serve one another. And so happy that Tor is really part of that, and has been now offering his incredible just practices and mediums to the We Are Formless community, and obviously his own. And again, we can call each other names, and but Tor is really kind of all about the intuition, I guess. And so there's crystals and tarot, and so I'd love to just just kind of open up the space for you to sort of share just kind of what you do and what people might sort of expect from what you're offering during this journey with RV.
Yes, thank you, Marina, for that. And just so incredibly grateful to be able to be a part of this experience that RV Experience and We Are Formless is going to create over the next month. It's going to be really interesting to see what the other practitioners have to offer, and so on and so forth, and how we all, in so many ways, as approach the same thing from different avenues. So as Marina said, my name is Tor. I'm a Norwegian, now living in London, been here since 2012. And it's so interesting that we are going to be exploring authenticity. I think one of the reasons why, for example, so Chris, who brought me on to do this, wanted to bring me on to do this, because I shared a story that I did with them for a while back about crystal healing, and what I shared there was when I came out as gay when I was 15, and how that was such a such a moment of increasing my self-awareness and coming to terms with my sexuality and who I was at a very young age. I had to like really check in with myself. And I think that sort of gave me a springboard to understanding who I am at a more deeper level. So in certain ways, you know, we'd like to label stuff. I call myself a spiritual guide because I think that's quite an all-encompassing name. I work with crystals, I work with tarot, intuition, psychicness, healing abilities, and in so many ways, I do a few different things. I work with individuals to develop those skills within themselves because I have sat in a psychic development group since 2013, and my grandmother is a clairvoyant medium, so she showed me many of those avenues from a very young age. And then since 2013, I've sat in a group with my spiritual teacher, Ines Nicholson, and now I help bring forward those abilities within other people. What I also do is that I give people psychic tarot readings. I guide people through a immersive meditative experience and also crystal healing. And what I will be doing at my event is that I will be guiding people through that meditative experience, the immersive visual meditation that I guide people through. Because I think and believe that, you know, we're so often conditioned by many of the agents within society, our parents, family, friends, school, the media, books that we read, all of that impacts who we are. And that's just a part of life, right? But at the same time, that can also have, no, I don't want to say negative impact, but it can have a negative impact, you know, because if you, I don't know, you see something in the media and you're like, is that really how I should be doing too? And the answer to that is probably no. And what we do to, in so many ways, what we can do to decondition ourselves from that is that we can do something, practice something such as meditation, where we can enter into ourselves and sort of return to our true self, right? And sort of deprogram, decondition those parts of ourselves which have sort of been programmed into us by society. So I think it's a very interesting way of getting to that golden nugget or that golden essence, which is ourselves, our soul, our higher self, call it what you like, in so many different ways.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Tor. You know, I connect with your work so much. We've, you know, worked together on Formless and worked together outside of Formless. And, you know, I kind of expressed to you the other day, like what I just found so compelling about the work that you do is just, you know, how kind of tangible it also is. Like, it doesn't feel, you know, kind of like you have to transcend, or, you know, maybe you will, but you know, it's not about that. It's about, you know, ultimately coming back to yourself and kind of using what, you know, we innately have as human beings. And, you know, mentioning kind of deconditioning, like funnily enough, like for me personally, I found that kind of authenticity and sort of coming back to this place of truth was like less focus on the individual self and kind of like this sense of actually the self is just, you know, everything. It's frequency, it's nature, and really kind of seeing that, I don't know, like the focus isn't on me, right? It isn't on me. It's just about living and realizing that, you know, I'm a part of it and I'm always a part of it. And that, I don't know, for me, that was a kind of deconditioning moment in itself, because I thought, oh, right, you know, sometimes we can, without realize it, begin to sort of perpetuate cycles that are very kind of conditioned, and in that world that, you know, so many of us are now trying to kind of break out of and find ways to kind of live in a sort of, I guess, more natural way. And for me, it was just this moment of kind of like, it's not about me. It's just about living and realizing, you know, that everything is interconnected. And then from that place, we get to create from like a really sort of true place. Because, and when I say that, this is, you know, this is a personal kind of realization. And I think, you know, obviously I kind of art trained and design trained, and, you know, so my life's work has been in the kind of creative field, and just like you were sort of saying, Tor, there's so much conditioning that comes in in that kind of like arena. And, you know, I had that moment of like, oh God, this isn't what I thought creativity was going to be. This isn't really why I kind of got into this. And, you know, never diminishing needing to make a living and, you know, all of the things that are very real for all of us. But really just realizing like, you know what, like I had this thought today, and I was like, it really is just like, it really is fine to be lazy. Like it really is, like lazy is not bad. Lazy is good. Lazy is rest. Lazy is less. Lazy is what will perhaps save the world, right? Because we just all need to step into this kind of like flow that ultimately works for us. And I think that, you know, we all kind of end up organically, or if we allow ourselves, we can all kind of organically find, I guess, practices or tools or rituals, modalities, whatever we want to call it, that bring us back to that place. And obviously, you know, meditation is a practice that has become so used and important. And I think during especially times like now, where it can feel like there is just so much movement and you know, so much shifting and entering into the kind of complete unknown, even though really everything was always unknown. And so perhaps it was all kind of a false sense of security, and maybe now is truer than ever it's been before. So maybe now is when things do get real and do get kind of more authentic. Nevertheless, it can feel very overwhelming. You know, so for me personally, you know, creativity is life. Like that's where we're all born from, is it's creation. And that's really kind of all my work is in kind of, you know, different ways to, I guess, use art as a tool to come back to truth. And also kind of, again, with art, deconditioning what that means. So for me, like I love process art. So it's not about kind of what is this piece, what am I going to create, how can it, you know, benefit me or the world. And again, for me, it's like symbolic of life. When we're always thinking of that kind of end outcome, we're missing the moments, right? And so with art, it's like if you're always in that place of like the end outcome, you're missing out on the process. And if you're missing out on the process, well, then what's the point? So really, you know, in my kind of session, I'll be exploring a lot of that and just really coming back to that place of also just having fun, like actually just play. And there are so many ways that, you know, we can do that. We can do it in the body, we can do it in stillness, we can do it, you know, with material. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of share some playtime with everyone, and excited to really deep dive into more of your work with meditation, Tor. That's become such a, you know, key part of kind of what I do now, and really, yeah, just really kind of cultivating, you know, that space to come back to what's within me, but like what I'm connected to really always, you know, even when I'm gone, it's like that's that energy is still out there.
Well, there's so many things I could build on there, Marina. That's all it's all very, very interesting. I suppose there's one thread I wanted to pull on, which is this sort of, I suppose you were talking about the collective and the sort of, I suppose the disintegration, is that a word? Anyway, of the ego. Was the paradox, or the difficult thing to always reconcile, right? It's the thing of being an individual at the same time as we are a part of this whole collective, and always somehow managing to, like, because all it's like the thing is, like, we have to pay our bills, right? So that's the, you know, and we have to individually make that cash somehow. So it's I totally can relate to that, and it's a fine balance to strike, and it's quite a difficult one. And I think, again, that's why the meditation, at least for me, is so important, because I think I've definitely had like transcendent moments where sort of my ego just like disappears, and I sort of have this connected of like oneness to everything. And then we can bring that into our daily life, right? Because that's, I suppose, what I think is really important about meditation and practicing spirituality and so on and so forth. It's not about making everybody into spiritual gurus. You know, it's about making people thrive in the life that they're in so many ways. That's what's always really important to me, is that these tools and practices are supposed to fit into anyone's daily life, regardless of whether you are like a trader in a bank, or you're working on a shop floor, or you're a bus driver. Because we're going to have these people anyway, but you know, if we can give them a bit of sort of spiritual sprinkle, maybe they might behave or feel in a different way than they are already. I mean, I'm really looking forward to your event. Sounds so great to be like playing with joy, because I do this thing every week now where I pull a card out of my deck and I make a video about it. And the card that I pulled today was actually the Six of Cups, which are like two people leaning towards each other. And what I sort of derived or reading that came from that card was about being present, but also the word joy and glee and playfulness was really, really important in that. So there's something about allowing ourselves to feel that sense of joy and playfulness. Because I'm a Northern European, so we can always be quite serious about what we do in terms of disciplines, and I fully aware of my cultural conditioning there. So it's like someone like me, it is important that I allow myself to be playful and all that kind of stuff. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, and I think a couple of things that I sort of wanted to touch on is that the individual kind of like part of how we like how we we're here, right? I am Marina and you are Tor, and we are built the way we are built. And I think for me it was almost that kind of like the less of like, what is my life meaning, what is the path I'm on, this, which is such the conditioning, like, hey, like it's very much rooted in a capitalist kind of world and so there's the kind of look how your life can be and how you can get there, and then sometimes in the spiritual world there's like look how you can be better, right? So there's this constant focus on being better and being more, when actually you're kind of like, well, what about just where we are right now? Like, be here now, in the in the famous words that are be here now. And I think in a way, for me personally, when I come to that place, right, is almost when then the kind of like creative download, right? So the unique, the individuality of I guess what then I have to offer, I'm open to receive it, right? Because I'm in a less structured, conditioned place of maybe being kind of like like overthinking things, or trying to kind of cultivate what I think life should look like, especially in this kind of like age of self-promotion. It's taken on a whole kind of different entity, the way that we sort of live. And I think again, like for me personally, like coming back into that place of like now and presence is then in a way what enables that true authenticity, like that true uniqueness and individuality to come through. Because I guess really it's that I care less, right? I care less than I guess what other people think, or what I even maybe think of myself, because I'm kind of just honoring what is coming through. And for me personally, it's those creative downloads, it's the words, it's the visions, it's the keeping a notebook on my bedside table, just allow that sort of stuff to come through. And then secondly, the joy. I mean, anyone that knows me knows that I can be the kind of most serious person on the planet when it comes to what is happening globally, historically, what's led us to this point, and where we're going if certain things don't change. And that's very, very real. However, I also know that kind of like joy and light are imperative, because light is light, like it rises every day, and it's where we can connect and come together in kind of like that kind of common place, and and power through all of the uncertainties and the kind of darker spells. And I think that really it's like our fighting force in many ways is that joy and light. And it sounds like so woo woo and so kind of cheesy, but it's the truth. Like we can't and I've gone into depression, and I still suffer with anxiety. That's still part of my life. And kind of welcoming in more of that playtime and joy, it's like it enables me to give back more. And working with you and doing our journey through meditation and tarot and crystals and all of these kind of ways that we can incorporate, again, very much like when you mentioned tarot, right? For me, tarot is so fun, right? And I guess maybe because it's visual and you have these moments, you're like, it can't be a coincidence. Like this is exactly what I know I needed to like tune into, and that's kind of playtime in itself, right?
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I mean, it's something which is so, which you said about sort of being like we're all a personal brand, right? We're all selling ourselves basically. And, you know, I've been on calls with sort of Instagram salespeople, and they're sort of talking about, you know, we have to speak to the customer and customer experience, and the customer is always right, and you have to sort of, but I'm also like, yes, there is that, but there's also just the, like, I loved what you said about the creative download and just sharing what comes, because I also feel, at least personally, is that my content that I share is at its best when I just sort of share what comes, you know, unfiltered, not thinking about solving a problem or meeting a need. I just sort of just write down and share whatever comes in that moment. I suppose in so many ways, maybe I'm sort of in its own way meeting a need or solving a problem, but, you know, if I'm not even trying to think about that, you know, I'm just channeling basically. That is when I feel like I'm at my best.
Yeah. Yeah, you're in your flow then, and you're, you know, and there's so much to say. Like we should only like when we feel like we want to. Like when we force it is when I guess we're falling into those kind of conditioned, you know, ways of working and being. And I just want to pick up on something that someone's put in the comments. I think if we want to talk about growth and authenticity, we have to also talk about patriarchy. And yes, I mean, you know, there are many write-ins and, you know, historical context of patriarchy, and also spiritual, and say now we're, you know, even in the kind of moving into the age of Aquarius, into the sort of feminine, right? Like we've had the centuries and centuries of this kind of world that is very you know, led by you know, patriarchy, and, you know, thinking about kind of like, I always like to think of the left hand side of the brain and the right hand side of the brain, and, you know, where sort of structure and kind of like that linear approach lies versus the kind of creative, organic, intuitive. And I think it's never been about one or the other. Like, you know, we always want to reach balance, we always want to reach equilibrium, and what we don't want to do is, you know, kind of be like, we don't want to, if we've come to a certain place, what we don't want to do is then fight and oppose, you know, kind of what we've come to. What we need to do is meet each other, right? Like we need to meet everyone, whether it's, you know, different backgrounds, different races, different generations that are conditioned differently to us, like fighting. And I've done a lot of it. and you know, I've done a lot of it, and I've debated, and I've all of that. But really, it's the understanding. It's the, you know, and we all know that from a personal point of view. If you do therapy, if you know, it's understanding that kind of starts to allow us to, you know, shed and release and kind of come back to what we sort of need to come back to. And, you know, obviously now what we need is a balance, and we need that externally and we need it internally, right? Like we all need to be meeting, you know, our masculine side, our feminine side, and finding that balance within and externally if we want to start to see what we need to see in the world. So I think that's a really good point, and thank you for that. And I think, you know, all of these explorations and creativity, we know, is kind of very much in the, I always want to say it's the left hand side of the brain, but it's actually, I think, the right. And so the left is the linear and the kind of the pragmatic, and very much that kind of masculine sort of energy. And well, anyway, I'm probably wrong, but one side is one and one side is the other, and the other side is very much the intuition. A lot of the work that you do, Tor, intuition, flow. And so, you know, you saying, when I just have that creative download and I share, it feels great. And it's when people connect to it the most, it's because you're in that kind of flow place. You've probably, like, you know, you've met both, you know, sides of your brain or yourself or your soul, and people respond to it, and so do you. And I think that's very much, you know, the work and the journey that I guess we'll all be trying to kind of, yeah, share with people on this series, and, you know, in the work that we do, and just for us as well.
Yeah. I mean, my spiritual teacher often talks about like the real sort of the real magic, I suppose, happens when the intuitive and the logic mind sort of comes together and then creates something beautiful, right? And I really appreciate what you said there, because I also think it's important that it's not about opposing the masculine or opposing the feminine. It's about creating the equilibrium between both of them. I mean, I'm someone who really loves intensive CrossFit sports, really high intensity, super testosterone. I mean, it's like all over the place. But then I also love intuition and meditation and calm and empathy and compassion. And then there's something about being able to hold those two things at the same time, and like being loving and caring, but also like holding accountable and taking responsibility and like making plans. It's really, it's a really fine balance to sort of strike. And I'm not saying that I do it very well, but there's something about at least trying. And I think one thing which, you really said really nicely as well, which is understanding. It's about storytelling, right? It's about understanding where people come from and really listen. Because I think when it's when we start to really listen to people that, like active listening, as you would say in the corporate world, practice your active listening, and just really understand where people have come from. Because I think when we empathize with people and when we understand their stories, we also understand much more of who they are and what they are, instead of building sort of resentment towards them. Again, really hard to do, because there's some people you just think to yourself, what is going on? But that's where we have a responsibility to pause. And I'm trying to think of a Stoic quote now, which I can't remember, which is something like, be strict with yourself, but empathetic with everybody else, or something like that, which I'm butchering that, but that's the essence of it, basically.
Yeah, and going back to this point of kind of patriarchy, like really what we all need to be building more than anything is just like empathy and compassion for ourselves and everyone, right? And when we can do that, the world would change. Like I had a discussion today, and I obviously was talking about politics, and there's many new announcements, and taxes being raised and national insurance and all of these sort of things that really like ignite like fire in my belly, like socialist at heart, always will be. And just this idea of like I just think like why do people do what they do when they know like there is suffering at the hands of their actions, and why and it makes me cry, and it makes me angry, and it for a long time put me into a very stuck negative state, right? Like I was just in the anger place, and I'm also grateful for that. Like I needed to be in that place. I learned a lot. I did a lot of kind of like self education, and I wanted to know everything that was happening, and obviously that's impossible, but I'm always the kind of like avid researcher. But I think it's really key. It's really key that we do move into this kind of new energetic space where we choose how we are people, right? We are humans. First and foremost, we are humans. No one is better and no one is worse. Even the people that you think are the worst on the planet and the people that you think are the best, like we are fully equal, and everybody has a story, right? And I just think like it's so easy to judge, say, someone that's gone into prison, and then it's so easy to judge a politician. And everyone has their story, right? Everyone has their story. Really, that's why We Are Formless was born, is as a place to just support people, just to support humans in the best way that we could, and the planet that we live on. And really the only way that we can do that is to listen and to serve, right? And to support, because everyone has a story, and all we can kind of try and do is just understand one another and come back to that place of we are human, right? First and foremost, we are human. So if it's never gonna be this like utopia, good versus evil and whatever. It is just about trying to create more balance. And I think we can always start at home, and I think that's why this journey and all of the incredible practitioners that are part of this journey, artists, all have different ways of returning back to that place of what's real. And the more that we can kind of share that, and the more that we can kind of journey with that personally, we don't know what that kind of like domino effect is. And if we're doing it from an authentic place, even though we do need to pay our bills, but you know, from the way that we are at crisis point in the world, right? We're at crisis point in kind of like where the world is going and where our place is in the world. So yes, we have to pay the bills. That is very real. Regardless of crisis point, nothing changes. The cost of living gets higher, but we also have to, you know, we have to kind of like be guardians of the planet. We just do. And like I work a lot with students, I teach a lot of students, and I say, like, if you think you can single-handedly be the person to make the world a better place, you can. Because then if every single person genuinely thought that, the world would change tomorrow. I mean, and we're starting to see it because we're putting pressure on, you know, big conglomerate businesses. Like, that's one of the reasons that shifts are happening, is because we're standing up and going, hang on a second, we don't want to do it like that anymore. So we might not think we're individually responsible for that, but we are. To like the individual, we each then create the collective. So I think, you know, the more of this work that we can kind of journey with and explore and go deep and have fun and just share it with anyone and everyone. So, you know, even if you join this journey and your mother doesn't or your father doesn't, but you can then share parts of it with them, and then they could go on and share parts of it with other people. And it really is that sort of like pay it forward effect. And that's what I feel kind of the most excited about this collaboration, the work that, you know, I do personally, and the work that, you know, we're doing with We Are Formless. So yeah.
I think we've been doing this for half an hour now, haven't we? We should probably start rounding it up. Any wise words to bring it all together, Marina?
Just, yeah, like, let's do this. Let's do it. I'm ready. I'm so excited for anyone that is joining us on this journey. We have incredible practitioners, incredible artists. I think it's going to be expansive. It's going to be really diverse. And if anyone has any, you know, questions, if kind of know, we've kept this, you know, kind of just broad and organic and not giving too much away of all of the individual sessions, because that's also the fun in it, is kind of entering into the unknown. Like, if we're in the unknown, let's just go for it, right? So yeah, if anyone has any questions, they can email us at We Are Formless, or Arvi, also direct message us on Instagram. And yeah, we just really look forward to kind of journeying into this space.
Yeah, just embrace it in whatever way you can, you know, just embrace it. Thank you so much, Marina. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye.